Imagine turning your creative services, your creative talents into a scalable and profitable business machine. If you are a creative professional or have a creative agency or consultancy, you're probably thinking, Greg, that is impossible. But today, I'm actually going to debunk the myth that creative services cannot be productized. And it's probably not what you think if you thought that it just meant devaluing your creative talents and services. So let's hop into how I want you to think about how to productize your creative agency. If you're new here, my name is Greg Hickman. I'm the founder of Alt Agency, and we've helped over 700 agency owners to productize their service and really systematize their client delivery. And after an interview I did with Chris Doe, which I'll link in the description below, we actually got a huge influx of more creative professionals, brand strategists, brand identity designers, web design, content agencies, messaging strategists, the list goes on. We've actually been in the trenches for the last 5+ years, and we've worked with a lot of creative service providers at this point. And I'm here to tell you that you can productize creative services. Now, here's the thing. I have literally heard every single objection as to why creative services cannot be productized. The list runs long, but some of the most common ones are: my work is too custom to be productized. Each project is unique and requires a tailored approach. Is every client just supposed to get the same website? I do logos. Each logo has to be unique. I don't want to become a factory. I'm an artist, not an assembly line worker. I could seriously go on. The list goes on. And look, I get it. You are so passionate about your work, and your fears actually come from a genuine place. But here's what I need you to understand. Productization is about systemizing processes, not compromising on quality or creativity. In fact, it can actually free up your time from the administrative tasks and give you more time to focus on the creative elements of your work. And most importantly, it always results in more consistency, or at least it should, from a quality of client perspective, happier clients, sustainability in your lead generation, and most importantly, sustainability in your revenue and profit. Now, look, there's always going to be a little bit of commoditization when the word productize comes up, just because there are examples of people that have chosen to go down that path. The Design Pickles, if you think about it, which by the way is a brilliant business. I know Russ, phenomenal owner, built a huge team. The most people that poo-poo on a company like Design Pickle are really just the ones that don't want to be doing the type of work that Design Pickle does, which is a lot of recurring creative, social assets. They're not doing brand identity, and that's by design. They chose to do that because Russ's agency, when he had an agency, that was where a bulk of their work came from. So he, in essence, was productizing himself and the types of requests that he was getting from his clients, which if you just apply that same principle to your business, you can create your version of a productized creative company. Design Pickle is not giving everybody the same creative assets. They have different brand colors, different logos, different words on the page, but the process in which they deal and interact with clients is repeatable and the same for each and every client. And even if you do logos or do brand design, your process shouldn't change from client to client. That is the root of being a productized business. Now, before I jump into the iPad and share a couple key principles for you, the word productized, at least from my research, which I've done a lot, the furthest back I can find this concept showing up is from the book Built to Sell, which is by John Warrillow. It's a phenomenal podcast as well. If you're not listening to that podcast and you want to think about how do you systematize your agency and even exit, you should definitely check it out because there's plenty of examples of that podcast where he's talking to creative service firms. Now, here's the thing. The word productize that's the first time I've ever heard about it. And the whole book, the book Built to Sell, is about a creative agency. Yes, so that is right. The first time that I can find the word productize as far back as we can think of, the whole thing started from a creative service agency. So if you haven't read this book, I highly recommend you do, whether you're a creative service firm or not, because it really breaks down the power of productization. And so a quick lesson. In the book, Alex, who owns an agency, creative service firm, they do all of the things, meets a mentor named Ted. And he asked Ted to help him prepare the agency for sale because he was burnt out and he wanted to do something different. And Ted said, hey, I'm going to help you, but I want you to commit to going through everything that I teach you before you commit to actually exiting. Let's do all the things that I want to implement, and then you can decide if you still want to sell. And so Alex agrees. The first part of the process is he really asks Alex, what are you best at? And he says, well, it seems like the work that we're best at doing is designing logos. And he's like, we have a system we follow every single time we get asked to create a new product logo. Alex says the clients like the work that they produce. They're able to charge a good amount for it because clients know a product logo is something that they will use for a long time. And they said, once they create one product logo, we have our foot in the door and clients actually come back as they launch new products. So he was dealing with companies that might need to come back for another logo later, which is a reoccurring client. Not a recurring client, a reoccurring client. And the main problem that Ted identifies is that Alex was accepting too many different projects. So he says, what happens is you need all kinds of different talent on your team. You're a small shop, so you have to hire generalists who are inevitably not as good as the specialists in the big agencies or that the big agencies can hire. And so you're asking generalists to perform specialist work, and that work is weak. You're probably resonating with this if you are a creative service professional. And I know the hundreds of clients that we've worked with, this comes up a lot. He says, we can't generalize, we need to specialize. And specialize is a key piece of productization. So if you focus on doing one thing well and you hire specialists in that area, the quality of your work will actually improve and you'll stand out amongst your competitors when you focus on fewer things. So one other key piece that shows up for creative service professionals is relying too heavily on one client. It's really risky. If that client goes away, most of your revenue goes away. So that's what we call concentration risk. And a lot of agencies actually struggle with this, but creatives for sure. It actually also turns off other buyers because they know that you're so woven into these other companies. So you really want to make sure that no one client makes up more than 15% of your revenue. This is a recommendation that comes from that book as well. So let's talk about how Ted advises Alex to create a more productized creative service firm around the idea of creating logos. Now, the first thing Alex is advised to do is to turn his logo creation process into an instruction manual. And that's really the first assignment that he was given. And so he sat with his team and they figured out that they actually took the same 5 steps every single time. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You might have more steps. I've found that for a lot of our clients, we can package everything and all of their process into almost always 9 steps or less, which gives us actually 3 different phases of work. And there's a lot of different ways you can slice and dice the delivery of this. You can do each phase as a different offer. You can do all of them as one offer, etc. But nonetheless, you want to unpack how you go about actually doing the work. Alex found that they had a 5-step process, and that was the first step. I'd recommend articulating this out, and every single client should go through the same process, whether you have 5 steps or 9 steps or what have you. So the second thing that Alex is advised to do is to take that 5-step process and give it a name. So with our clients, once we've gotten them to break down their process into, say, 9 steps, 3 phases, which there's a magic behind 3. I'm not going into that right now, but we want to give it a name, and then there'll be like a description to what it kind of does. Now, once we create that and we name it, in this case, in the book, they didn't get super fancy. They called it our 5-step logo design process. You could give it a great name. Once you give it a name, it actually becomes a product, right? Your process is the product. So in the book, Alex says, we're going to charge $10,000 for this. It's a flat rate. The fee was a combination of what he thought a logo was worth to his clients and how much time and energy it would take and kind of a gut feeling. There was nothing scientific about 10,000, as he says in the book. But instead of putting his hourly rates in a proposal, Alex decided that since the project was so well defined, he would gamble and set the price for the 5-step logo design process at this flat rate. Now, once he had this 1-page document that described the process, he was encouraged to go sell it. His mentor, Ted, said, hey, now go have 10 conversations, go pitch 10 people on this new product. In this document, it isn't just mapping the process and naming it is recommended to include some details, really the features, the benefits. What is the utility? What are they going to get out of this process when they work with you, right? Because most people care about the outcome that's at the end of the road. Right now, they are in a spot where they maybe have pain and they are unhappy. And after that, you take them through your step-by-step process, they should receive or arrive at an outcome that is valuable to them. And so one way that we think about this is using the from to statement. statement. You're going to take them from something that is painful, something that they want to get away from, to whatever the desired outcome is. Now, what's beautiful about this is you can actually do that for each and every step. So you can say, hey, in our first step, we're going to be working on XYZ. And that's going to help you go from thing that you've experienced now to what you want. So for example, when a lot of clients work with us and they don't know how to articulate what they do, and they go through our training around defining their specialty and packaging up their expertise into one statement, they go from not being able to articulate what they do to having a powerful one sentence that describes exactly who they serve and the value of the work that they provide. So you can see kind of from not really clear on what we do to being crystal clear. And so as we're talking to people, we can say, hey, like, well, if you feel like you're unclear and all over the place, when we work on our first step together, you're actually going to come out of that feeling crystal clear and confident in what you sell and the value that it creates. And so now as you take your prospects through each and every step of your process, and you can associate it to a problem that they're experiencing and what it's going to be like when that problem goes away, they're going to be able to associate the outcome with your process. And that's a key piece of the selling process. Again, for really a lot of detail on this is what we work on with our clients. But the point is, we first have to develop the instruction manual. We need to give it a name and give it a price. And then we need to identify what those features and benefits are so that we can go around and pitch it to 10 people like Alex was advised to in this book. Now, when Alex comes back from having pitched this, he shared with Ted a handful of things. Outside of the handful of sales that he generated, he said he felt more confident. He said, in the past, when I was pitching our agency, I felt like I was groveling for table scraps. We didn't really specialize in anything. So I would take any project that they would throw my way. Most creative service professionals and arguably most agencies actually operate this way. So if that's you, packaging your process into a product, giving it a name and having a specific way in which you deliver it is going to unlock a lot of growth. And so he said, when I was pitching our process, I felt like an expert. I felt like I was in control. He said, I felt confident that we have something of value. And I think that confidence was contagious. So there you have it, a step-by-step process for you. Recap. First, you need to identify the service and or the outcome that you are going to solve with this process. In Alex's case, that was the logo. So identify the outcome. Step 2 is to develop the instruction manual for the process to create that outcome. 3 is to name it. And 4 is to put it onto a document with the name, the price, and the features and benefits, along with the visual representation of the process to sell it. And then 5 would be go try to sell it to 10 people. I want you to come back in the comments and share. What was it like going to have those conversations? How did you feel? Because I know that when our clients go do this, they do feel confident. They do feel like the expert, and they get tons of amazing feedback and paying clients when they do it. One thing that you have to understand is, now I'm pulling this from the book, is there are 3 criteria to make a service scalable. And when I say scalable, I'm actually referring to turning it into a product. And so those 3 things that I want to share with you today, because I think it's really important for you to think through what your service and or product will become as you're creating it. The first key is this: it needs to be teachable to employees. Alex needed to be able to teach this 5-step logo design process to the other team members so that they can execute it on his behalf. And again, if you read the book, you'll identify that certain team members were really focused on parts 1 and 2, and then someone else was responsible for part 3, 4, and 5, et cetera. And so there were key team members that obviously fit into the process. So if it's teachable, that means you, the founder, Alex, could teach other people on your team to get the result for his clients on his behalf. And a key piece of making it teachable is also, how can you even leverage technology to deliver this? With a lot of our clients who are kind of a hybrid service between consulting, training, and service, you can also ask, well, how can I create content that gets my client involved in the delivery? Or how do I create content that helps educate my client as it relates to the work that we're doing, which will make our process more seamless? We have our clients create a lot of content in the new client onboarding process. Actually, there's 3 to 4 specific pieces of content in the new client onboarding process that maximize profits, set the proper expectations for the work, and actually create really happy clients for your service. So if you have like unsatisfied clients early on, you probably can be using content or technology to teach them, not just teach your team, how to work with you better. So the first criteria for a more scalable based service-based business is the work that you do has to be teachable. This is where I see creatives kind of start to fall apart because they're like, nobody can do what I can do. And if what you do is too complex, you actually need to simplify your process. That doesn't mean you need to become a commodity. You just need to learn how to be able to communicate your process so that other people can do it. Because as long as it's locked up in your head, the whole business relies on you, which means you're probably making things too complex. So the second thing is that it has to be valuable to your clients. This is what actually avoids the commoditization. The people who are customers of Design Pickle, they don't look at it as a commoditization. They look at it as a valuable service. And there's a particular type of person that uses that service. Look at any productized service that you think is now a commodity. If you ask their customers, there's a reason why they're buying it. There's a reason why they've been members or subscribers, because they find it valuable. So when you can have something that's teachable, specialized, and focused for your particular type of buyer, which is where you're going to get the benefit of specializing, it can become valuable to them. And lastly, the third piece is that it's repeatable, meaning either customers are going to need to come back again to buy it, or there's a lot of other people that are going to have the same problem. If it's like a very unique problem that only like 5 businesses in the world are going to have, that's probably not going to make for a great product or a great service to productize and package. So repeatable, meaning customers will return and or buy again, and or there's just enough of them that have a similar problem and value it equally. In the reoccurring fashion, you could think of products like razor blades. The razor itself, I still have the same handle unless I lose it, but I replace razor blades all the time. If you are a creative service company and you create social content, well, guess what? There's going to probably be reoccurring social content that your clients need every month. If you work with a company that does logos, maybe you work with a company that has multiple brands, well, they might only need a logo for the first brand when they get started with you, or maybe they only have one brand when they get started with you, but then they start rolling out other products. Well, that one client might come back for 10 logos over the course of 10 years if their product suite expands. So we have to look at, once you unpackage this process, is it teachable to others, aka my team, and possibly even clients? Is it valuable? Is it solving a problem that they think is valuable and worthy of spending money on? And is it repeatable and or a problem that a large enough audience will have that there's enough total addressable market for you to grow your business around? If you are a creative service professional and you've been saying, I can't productize, or it automatically makes me a commodity, I highly recommend you check out Built to Sell. It's the first book that ever really broke down productization, and it's about a creative service company. And if you're still thinking that this is not going to work for me, then I think you should go check out this video on the different phases that you're going to have to go through in order to make your business more systematic anyway.